From Synozur, this is Polaris. I'm Chris McNulty. AI is no longer on the horizon, it's here. Its rise is creating huge disruptions in the economy and the workforce. Up to 300 million jobs worldwide could be impacted by AI automation. Society is racing to adapt. Are we ready for an AI-enabled world? Will workers be augmented or automated? Today, we're talking with someone who's been spotting tech megatrends for decades to get some answers. This is Polaris. Welcome to Polaris Pathways. I'm your host, Chris McNulty, Chief Technology Officer at Synozur. Synozur, the transformation company, reimagines business for our clients, navigating strategies and leadership culture with ease. Today, I'm happy to introduce our guest, Michael Tchong. Michael is a futurist, innovator, and the founder of Ubertrends Academy. He's been called America's most influential trend spotter by the Daily Telegraph, and he'll join us in a few minutes. But first, let's define our terms and our data points. As usual, our reading list and references will be included in our show notes. AI's impact on society has dominated headlines in the past year. Generative AI tools like ChatGPT have achieved mainstream adoption at a record pace. ChatGPT's meteoric growth, 100 million users in the first 2 months, turned it into the Taylor Swift of technology, growing crowds of curious users worldwide as part of the Eras tour of AI. At the same time, this rapid progress has sparked new anxieties and debates. A recent Pew Research Center survey found that only 17% of U.S. adults expect AI to have a mostly positive impact on society in the next 20 years, while a majority are concerned about the negative effects. Business leaders are understandably anxious about what AI means for jobs and the economy. As we noted, one major analysis predicts 18% of work globally could be automated by AI, affecting 300 million roles. And it's not just analysts raising flags. Last year, thousands of tech leaders and researchers, including Elon Musk, signed an open letter calling for a 6-month pause on developing the most powerful AI systems, warning of profound risks to society. Nonetheless, Grok continues to release new features at a dizzying pace. In other words, AI is a megatrend, creating both excitement and uncertainty. It's disrupting how we work, what skills we need, and how we filter truth from fiction. As Gen AI turns out everything from delightful images to deep fake videos, people are asking, will society adapt to this AI-driven content or be overwhelmed by it? History has seen waves of disruption before, from the Industrial Revolution to the telephone to the internet. But many are wondering if this time is different. Certainly, this is the time to introduce today's guest. We've got Michael waiting in the wings. Let's go. So, Michael, thank you for joining us here in Polaris. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I'm looking forward to our scintillating conversation.
Where are you calling from today?
Calling from sunny Las Vegas, Nevada, not New Mexico.
I was once in Las Vegas, New Mexico. I had great chile relleno, a little place off the highway there.
I have a feeling a lot of people will want to move to Las Vegas, New Mexico, because, as you well heard, our economy is in a slump. And some people are attributing it to the fact that, now that sports gambling is widely available, it's having an impact on Las Vegas's economy.
You focus on being a futurist and the trend spotter, and that's where you are. I'm really curious about what the other side of that journey is. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a very small island in the Caribbean called Aruba. And moved to New York City to go to school at Fordham, and then eventually wound my way to the West Coast, where, of course, I was infected by Silicon Valley.
When you got to Silicon Valley, innovation and trends move quickly there. What led you into the perspective of being a futurist, being able to look ahead and forecast where things were headed?
Well, it was kind of an accidental journey, really. My first startup was Mac Week, and for my storage advertisers, which was the biggest category, attaching a hard disk to your PC or Mac, um, I wrote a white paper. And the white paper was about the storage market, and that started my analyst career. And after the dot-com boom, when I was forced to lay off a lot of my employees because the market had affected us most because all of our advertising came from dot-com startups and they, of course, disappeared, I decided that maybe trend watching would be a good career for me because I felt that people needed a better way to predict the future.
And so that's led you to founding Ubertrends Academy.
There was, of course, a long time in between. I became a public speaker. I specialize in trend watching. I wrote a book called Trendscape 2004. And from there on, I started a desktop publishing focused magazine when desktop publishing was in its infancy. I did a CRM startup. I did a digital marketing startup. So I've always in my career have ridden the waves that are emerging. And I thought that, what I'd like to do is take that expertise that I have in kind of looking at what lies ahead and try to turn that into a business. And that's what led me to found Ubertrends Academy, which is essentially a trend watching and innovation school.
So before we look forward, I'd like to just take a moment and talk about what's going on right now. With the pace of change in the economy, politics, technology, there is always lots of news stories that capture everyone's attention. What's something that's been on your mind over the past week or two?
Well, I'd be remiss as a trend watcher not to point out that AI is the biggest revolution and even larger than the internet itself. And as you can imagine, the headlines are blaring all over the place. The impact of AI on college students that are looking for a job is immense. And I think that is just an inkling of a future to come because what we're seeing right now is that generative AI, November 30th, 2022 benchmark ChatGPT introduced. And now, not even 3 years later, and we have already seen massive amounts of money. I mean, in 2022, we only invested $50 billion in AI. And then, of course, that has exploded. If you add all the public funds that are being invested as well, I'm sure that is 10x what we did in 2022 this year. So that, to me, is the biggest revolution that's coming down the pike, and it's going to have a huge amount of impact on society beyond what you're reading, because we could already see that what the internet and social media has done to society, right? I mean, I went on a circuit in 2009 and my presentation was entitled, "I'm going to tweet you up," because I could only foresee massive positive, the Arab Spring Revolution, all of these great things that happened. I did not know that at the time that Facebook's advertising algorithm would end up skewing the population's perceptions about what reality really is.
Yeah.
Unforeseen prediction. So what I'm saying is that with AI, we're going to get a 10x multiplication of unforeseen effects on society. That we are kind of already seeing, right? We're already seeing teens using ChatGPT as psychoanalysis tools. That is already an inkling of what lies ahead.
About 12 years ago, when people were talking about digital transformation, I observed that the thing that made the most impact wasn't the fact that we were interconnected, which had been happening ever since the 90s and the rise of the internet, nor is it the fact that were moving workloads from on-premises into the cloud. It was the fact that you had these cloud-based universal identity systems that made it much easier for a business to talk to another business without having to set up this myriad of separate connections, that it was really going to break down some of that disintermediation for B2B and supply chain and all the rest. The changes for AI, the ones that'll have the biggest impact 20 years from now, maybe the smallest ones right now. What are those things that you're seeing that have a butterfly effect, that may be very small right now, but will have a huge impact down the road?
The one aspect of the market that I believe doesn't receive enough focus, and that is typical from Silicon Valley entrepreneurs who tend to suffer from featureitis, is that everyone is talking about machine languages and everyone is talking about, the ability to script and all of this. But the reality is scripting is very, very difficult to do. And what I'm looking forward to is the day and age that we as entrepreneurs really start to focus on meeting the pain points of our customers. And the number one pain point everyone has is, why does it take so freaking long to do anything? Workflow, to me, is the biggest opportunity that AI will provide us in the future. Once we got that workflow situation solved, then we're going to see massive improvements in worker productivity, which is what we're all looking for.
A lot of the first wave of agentic AI, the declarative agents, what people seem to be creating the most of are just alternative chatbots. Instead of using Copilot or Gemini or ChatGPT, you're putting a different brand on it, but it's not really changing it. Do you see that turning into something different than workflow was doing historically?
What I'm seeing is what you were just describing is a situation of Me Tooism, where all of these companies are raising huge amounts of money. Look at the $13 billion Anthropic just raised, or U.com just raised another obscene amount of money, all for Me Too solutions. Instead of focusing on the ability to seamlessly connect disparate systems and ability to exchange data between apps without having to go into Python and APIs and all of the other things. These are the problems that we as consumers and users face most. And AI should be able to address these, but right now, so the core markets that are getting the most money are the chatbot providers, the core, chat with me and I'll give you a solution. And then the other part of the hurricane that I see coming, the biggest part, and for me the most exciting one, which is agentic coding assistance. That is where the revolution is going to happen. When you and I can sit down and say, okay, I need an app that will do so and so and this and that for this and that market. And it actually goes and generates it, going into GitHub and doing all of these repository updates and all of this stuff that right now, this is what the end user faces. Oh, you want to get that done? This is what you need to do. You got to learn Python. You got to do this. You got to do that. Oh my God. No. I don't want to learn any of that. I want you to do it all for me. We're seeing some attempts at that. AWS with its latest solution kind of sounds like they're thinking about, how do I get that app onto the market quickly, because of course we want to feed our AWS revenue machine.
Right.
So they are more thinking in practical terms than the other developers are. CodeDev, the tool I used early on, just announced that it is closing shop. I guess they couldn't make it. I think a competition has turned out to be intense.
There's going to be strength in partnerships. I'm really interested in the Replit partnership with Microsoft, because it's one thing to deploy an app into Replit's world. It's quite another thing if you're going to be building these robust apps. They're going to live inside of Azure with all of the security and all the scale that you get with those big cloud platforms. When end users are building apps, do they even know what they need to ask for?
Yeah, that's what, that's a question that was asked of Steve Jobs. How can I do a focus group and ask people about the future when they don't know what they want? It's typical. It's difficult. But, I think most of that knowledge of where the pain points lie come with vertical market expertise. So anyone who is, for example, in the travel sector knows that what I have always been exponing, I've been a big proponent of this on the circuit. I say to the hoteliers, you know what? When you rent a car, you can pick up and drop off anytime. When you take a flight, you can get on a plane and leave it anytime. But when you get into a hotel, you have to check in at 3 or worse now 4 and leave at 12 or worse now 11.
Mm-hmm.
That is so incongruous. That is not the way the market should function. I said, so you hoteliers need to figure out a solution to make people check in all day long. And, of course, their eyes glaze over. They do not want to think about it because that is something that they just cannot attempt to solve. But that is what AI needs to solve for us because it's basically just a workforce scheduling issue.
A lot of folks are trying to figure out in the long run what AI's impact is going to be on the economy, especially on the labor market. And we've seen technologies before sometimes disrupt and reduce certain job sectors. Sometimes they create different jobs, and sometimes they expand the job force. Which way do you see it heading for the labor market?
Well, look, if everything was equal, NEQ, then I would say, look, we're going to have a bountiful market. It's going to be kind of analogous to what I went through with desktop publishing, where typesetters would come up to me at the show and say, you're taking our jobs away. And then 10 years later, we printed more documents than ever before because desktop publishing enabled people to create more documents easily. So a parallel would be AI is going to allow us to become more productive. Therefore, companies are going to be able to literally generate so much cash that they're willing to hire hundreds of thousands of AI-enabled individuals. So the economy expands because, new job definitions, et cetera, will happen. So it's not all doom and gloom, and I certainly believe that will happen. There's going to be people with new skill sets that we need right now, Perhaps prompt engineering is that, although I feel that prompt engineering is going to be built in every chatbot in the future. It's going to just do it for you, and it should actually. But there are going to be new jobs that will be created, that epiphany engineer, you name it, that comes out of this whole new AI world. So again, I think that is the ideal world. Unfortunately, we don't live in an ideal world. We live in a completely chaotic, non-planning for the future world where no one is thinking about the impact this will have on the workforce. So when I read that Wall Street Journal headline to you about, college graduates already experiencing misery trying to find a job because companies are eliminating entry-level jobs because AI is doing that for them. If we were smart as a society and started to think, okay, 5 years from now, we need to have this in place. 10 years from now, we need to have this in place. Then I think we would be able to stem the tide. But we're going to have to go to a short-term pain that is going to hit the market tremendously, specifically Gen Z. Gen Z is the most exposed to this because they're the ones that need the entry-level jobs the most, and they're experiencing it firsthand. They're going to be living with mom and dad much longer than they planned. They are going to have to upskill dramatically, which, of course, that's the message for the entire market. Everyone needs to upskill. You need to learn about AI today and become very proficient at it because that's the only way you're going to survive. Unless, of course, you plan on having a career in service level jobs where you just meet humans all day long, then that's fine. Those jobs are pretty safe right now. But even there, I see, here in Las Vegas, we already seen headlines where dealers are being replaced by robot dealers. So that's a service job that's supposedly involves human interaction, and that is already starting to be nibbled at the edge. Of course, that's not going to be true for everyone. There's still going to be organizations that believe that customer service and having a smiling face in front of you is key for customer interaction. But for some who, are looking for maximum profit and minimal customer service headaches, hey, a robot doesn't ask for a raise. A robot doesn't care. It doesn't call in sick, et cetera, et cetera. So you know what the issues are. And so we're going to go to short-term pain. I would say within 2 to 3 years, we're going to see massive upheaval in the job market because, of course, you're already seeing that. Ford CEO says 50% of his white-collar force is going to be replaced by AI. I mean, for these people, they used to be afraid of mentioning the impact of artificial intelligence. Now they're just coming out and saying, hey, we're doing it. Microsoft laying off 15,000, identifying each department where they laid off people in, customer service, sales, engineering. I was surprised by engineering, but that also tells you, hey, maybe those tools maybe Replit is very good.
I did an exercise with one of our clients a few weeks ago, and someone built a mobile app during a quick hackathon session. They're not technical, and they really loved it. They didn't know to ask for security. They didn't know to ask that, please make sure that you persist the data to the next application, because then they started the app the next day. It was like, all my data was gone. Well, you never asked to put the data into a database.
Right.
It reminds me of Last Week Tonight on HBO. John Oliver said over 2 years ago, AI is not going to replace lawyers, but lawyers with AI will replace lawyers without it. So I think you're spot on with the skill level.
Right.
But the comparison I would draw with what's going on right now is to where the internet was maybe 20, 25 years ago, that it became very easy for lots of people to make blogs or videos that were really not very good. AI is putting tools in people's hands right now that make it easier than ever for someone with relatively little skill to crank out lots of text, lots of audio, lots of video that is maybe not high quality. It gets called AI slop. And I think in the long run, you could see two things emerge from that. One is that AI just gets better at doing high quality work, or there is a flight to humanity. People prefer face-to-face interaction or something that's like you and I speaking right now, because we know that it's authentic and it isn't something that people sort of roll their eyes at and say, this looks too well written for a person to have done it, so I'm going to disregard it. Is AI going to get better at quality? Do people look for more human interaction? What's at play there?
I think that you are already seeing the improvement in AI. There were articles about the words that AI frequently uses, and therefore you can use an AI detection tool and immediately identify whether that's AI generated or not. You know as well as I do, the engineers over at OpenAI read that article and made sure to start using those words less. And I've already seen it. You don't see those terms surface as frequently. So that is already one way we're optimizing. And then, of course, remember, there's that whole paradigm of self-healing. That is what AI is really good at. So, for us to be able to say, hey, you know what? I have an app that I want to deliver but I have no idea on how to make it secure. I have no idea about how to make it hack-proof, et cetera, et cetera. AIs are learning that becomes an issue, and then they start to already proactively tell the user, this is what you need to do in order to make your product shippable. It's only a matter of time. And again, remember, everyone starts November 30th. Everyone looked at OpenAI and said, oh my goodness, you can chat and it gives you intelligent conversation back. Less than 3 years later, it's already writing books. It's helping uncover historical facts. It's doing things that no one thought was even remotely feasible a couple of years ago. So again, in my trend watching, one of the biggest Uber trends I talk about in front of my audiences is time compression, the acceleration of life. Uh-huh. And like your Victorian book, it's rooted in history, right? The discovery of the microwave oven in 1946. That same year, the Polaroid cameras introduced. Fast food debuts in San Bernardino, California in 1948. FedEx launches in 1973. All of these things serve to accelerate society beyond your wildest dreams, because it can output innovation faster than that old 18-month cliche that we use in Silicon Valley to say, oh, in 18 months, we're going to have X. Well, thanks to Mr. Moore. But it's going to be 4 months within 2 years. And then it's going to be a month within 5 years. So, yeah. Things are going to accelerate beyond belief, and therefore, that's another reason why, if you're not on the AI bandwagon today, better get on it.
The other place you're going to see that speed unfold is on the marketing side. And I don't mean just in terms of being able to get more blog posts out more quickly, but it's becoming increasingly possible to, if you have a product concept, you want to experiment with a lot of things and fail fast. You don't want to put money onto something that's not going to work. You can stand up a whole campaign and a site and start marketing things and tell within, a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of days, if we build this, will people buy it? And getting that signal back faster than ever helps you pick the winners and not invest in the losers, for sure.
I am so happy you brought up marketing. Because as you well know, my last digital marketing startup, Iconocast, we set a standard in the industry in terms of, using viral apps and getting Dennis Rodman to come out on a Harley Davidson motorcycle. But those are, benign things compared to today. One of the most fascinating facts that I see right now is the virtual absence of all the top players in digital marketing when people do roundups of the coolest AI marketing tools. So, like the sales development relationship app or the go-to-market apps like Clay, things that these people, there is no MailChimp here. There is none of the constant content, none of the traditional players, maybe with the exception of Salesforce, but even that I find to be kind of wimpy in terms of what they really could be doing. In the span of since that day of November 30th, we have had almost 40,000 AI apps launched, right? And by comparison, it's taken us over 26 years to come up with 16,000 digital marketing apps. That already is the barometer of growth that is showing you AI is expanding exponentially. But the digital marketing players are not there, and they're the ones that need to be there. If I have a pain point with Ubertrends Academy, it's that it is well nigh impossible to this day to get my contacts out of my contact manager without having to use CSV files, a technology IBM introduced in 1967. And should not be used by mere mortals anymore, right. But is still the lingua franca of digital marketing. which is who wants to know about delimiters? What the hell is a comma? What's a tab? What does that mean? This stuff needs to be completely hidden from the end user. It needs to be gone. And we need a new lingua franca. Call it marketing.json, whatever you want to call it, but we need a new lingua franca. Hopefully, someone is going to come up with that dream digital marketing app we all need. Hey, I want to create an email list. I want you to automatically tag all my visitors that are coming from X. I want you to, and it does it. Can't be done today. Nobody can do it. Isn't it amazing?
It reminds me of, the 19th century coming into the 20th, and what the automobile and the truck meant for companies who thought they were in the railroad business. And they weren't in the railroad business. They were in the transportation business. Trying to adapt AI to the email business is the wrong problem. Mm-hmm. You need to use AI to adapt to the customer business. And that might touch email, it might touch social, and it's also going to touch some other paradigms that haven't fully been invented yet. So, Michael, it's been great unpacking many of these trends with you today. I love to bring in the human side, something that you've been paying attention to in the world of culture. It could be a book, a movie, a TV show. What's something you've seen recently that's captured your attention?
I parse 300 headlines a day. And I try to distill that into nuggets that you find useful. What captures me is just the headlines that are flowing out of this whole AI revolution. The fact that we are starting to resemble our social media profiles, or the fact that we're using algo speak and we're talking like computers and AI bots already. These are the things that stick in my head because it's what's going to set our world on fire in the next few years, and to me, that's my contribution to mankind.
So, Michael, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what's next for you and for Ubertrends Academy, and how can our audience stay in touch with you?
We really need solutions. We need real-life solutions to all the challenges that face us, and I'm out there to try to create new movements that will help stem that Gen Z tide that we're facing, and the unemployment tide that is. So I'm trying to come up with solutions that actually address our looming issues. You can reach me at Ubertrends.com. That's my main website. That's where the Academy rolls out. Ubertrends.com Academy. Our first course is called AI CEO because I believe that's the wave of the future. It's going to serve us really well to replace some of these people that may make way too much money compared to the common worker with something that doesn't demand, $29 billion salary and too much time off.
Well, Michael, thank you for coming here in Polaris and sharing your insights with us. So, folks, Michael Tchong is the founder of Ubertrends Academy, where you can find his latest reading, writing, and thinking about generative AI. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
We'll be right back. Up next on Polaris, events. The end of summer means back to school and also back to conferences for many of us. Here's what we're watching. The TribalNet Conference, September 14th through 18th in Reno, Nevada. The London Tech Leaders Summit. This will be October 7th through 8th at the Minster Building near the Tower of London in London, England. Experts Live, October 10th, 2025 at Microsoft New York in Times Square. The Vancouver AI Summit, October 19th to 20th at the Harbor Center in Vancouver, British Columbia. Looking ahead, TechCon 365 in Dallas, and Microsoft Ignite this November in San Francisco, and closing out the year this December with ESPC 25 in Dublin, Ireland. We'll have more details and links to each of these events in our show notes and on our website. If you have an upcoming event you'd like us to highlight on Polaris, please let us know. We love sharing what's happening across the community. A few closing thoughts. When Michael and I first met, we discussed how technology change on society isn't new, it's a pattern. One of my favorite books is Tom Standage in the Victorian Internet, the story of the telegraph that Michael referenced just before. The telegraph didn't just speed up messages, it rewired human behavior. It helped create the world's first telecommunications network, stitched together by undersea cables, and made the Pony Express obsolete almost overnight. People adapted their writing styles to telegraphese, compressing ideas into terse, punchy lines, the ancestor to texts and DMs. New opportunities also brought new risks: wire fraud, stock manipulation, and confidence schemes that flourished alongside legitimate commerce. And in a very human twist, telegraph operators, often communicating through code and across great distances, fell in love and married, pioneering long-distance romance. The telegraph story reminds us that every breakthrough is social before it's technical. What changes the wires changes us. Well, that's a wrap for another episode. I'd like to thank today's guest, Michael Tchong, for joining us and sharing his thoughts on where our AI trends are carrying us. We encourage you to check out our show page for links to everything we talked about today and more. Visit us at polaris.synozur.com. If you have comments, we'd love to hear from you. Please send your thoughts to polaris@synozur.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Polaris. And follow us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Polaris is produced with help from Riverside FM. Our theme song, Alternative Dream, is provided courtesy of Adobe. Additional music and sound by Indie Guy Records. Graphic design by Josh Brantley. Thanks for listening. I'm Chris McNulty, and this has been Polaris, a show that charts the course for business and technology transformation from Synozur. Learn more at Synozur.com. See you next time. Keep following your North Star.